Welcome back to Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. I'm so happy that you guys have tuned in once again with another week of hot fire like Dylan. Guys, I want to get right into it this week, but before I do, you know the drill. Look, like, subscribe, share this podcast. Let everyone know, all about Champ Talk, how it's helped you. Leave a review. I don't care what platform you're on. Obviously, I'd like it on all platforms, but we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Facebook, Instagram, maybe TikTok. I think we got banned. I don't know. But anyway, we're on all of them. So please like and subscribe and share this episode. So I had a guest cancellation today, last minute, and I just decided to go right at it and bring you guys some heat. It's been something I've been thinking about lately, and it's something that I'm actually really good at, okay? I have been really good all my life on establishing community and culture, right? Like, even when I was a kid, I didn't really realize I was doing this, but I can remember like having different cliques in high school and stuff like that. Now, when I went to Y High, 25 years ago, Y High was like the melting pot of Salisbury, of the Eastern Shore, right? Like we had a little, it was pretty kind of rough too, but at the same time, we kind of had a little bit of everybody. Everybody kind of hung out with each other, and even though we were kind of cliquey, we still had respect because really there was such Y High pride back then that it was like us versus them. It was us versus the other high schools, the other states, and things like that. So for us, you know what I mean? We were kind of like the inner city school of Salisbury, if you want to call it that. But we also, we were also just a vibe, man. You really back then didn't have a whole bunch of us fighting amongst each other. I mean, you had your occasional fights that you had in school, but mostly it was us against other people. I remember when we were a freshman, it was like 67 freshmen on the football team, right? That we played on, the Indians. And what was cool about that was that was just like we all had played in Boys Club and Pop Warner Ball together, Salvation Army and things like that. And we were all kind of already a clique. And back then, they had something called Freshman Bank Day, right? They would bank you, they would jump you, right? So it was basically a thing where the seniors and the juniors would, hop on the freshmen, even some of the sophomores. And I remember vividly, right, that we first of all, we made an impression right away in August when we started practicing for football that year, because we just came in and I mean, we were so good. We were scrimmaging the varsity, right? So that's that was the potential. Now, we obviously weren't developed and as big as the seniors and juniors, but we definitely could hold our own. And we had a great record going out of Y High back then, on the football team and the basketball team, actually. But by time the September came around and school came around, oh man, it was a great time. It was a funny story, but I remember that, we were doing the pep rally in September, right? And everybody was getting geared up for the first football game. And, the big talk in school was for the freshman bank day. And we just were not accepting that. You know what I mean? The freshmen were not accepting that. And during the pep rally, right? This was way before like nowadays, where like back then, you had to kind of stand in line. You had to mind your P's and Q's. Now, high school is shit. It's all over the place. Kids do whatever the fuck they want to do. But back then, you know what I mean? We still had a level of respect, and I mean, we were still heathens, but, we didn't have cops in schools, okay? This was all before that, right? So we're doing the pep rally, and they've got 4 different bleacher sections where they have the freshmen, the sophomores, the juniors, and the seniors all sitting in a different section, right? And basically, as the pep rally's going on, and the people that were in the center hyping the crowds up, they're like pointing to the seniors, and everybody's like, woo, and juniors, and everybody's like, woo, right? And they're going, well, for some reason, the freshmen just caught an attitude. We just decided that we were not getting beat up that day. We decided that we were going to go all in and have our stake in the claim, and we were going to let everybody know we were there, right? Because we were deep. I mean, it was 67 of us just on the football team alone, not to mention how many of us just took over Y High. And this was like back in 1995, 96, I think, that year. And basically, we had one of our buddies, a couple of our buddies, they had the quarters. They started banging on the bleachers really loud, the wooden bleachers, right? And the rail. So it was a metal rail with a wooden bleacher. They're banging. I mean, they've got a badass beat going on. And somehow we all just like started chanting, "Freshman said, how you want to carry," right? Like basically taunting all of the other classes as if like, we ain't going out like that. We're good with whatever you want to do. And you know, and again, the freshman bank day, quote unquote, happened right after the pep rally. Everybody knew it. That's when it happened. And no, there wasn't a single problem. One, okay, we didn't have any issues. We walked the halls, very cool. I didn't hear anybody getting destroyed. You know, might have been a little ha ha he he, just so we could keep the tradition going. But no, that didn't happen. And I'm telling you this story to kind of paint a picture on kind of what it was like in high school. Because, you know, you're coming from middle school. That was a very weird time in your life. You know, you're going through all your, you know, puberty, hormonal type of things that you're not used to. And now you're in high school where like everything's so, you know, intense, and what you wear makes a difference. What you say, you know, could be social suicide. It's just one of those things where, you know, it's awkward. And you're finding a lot about yourself as a teenager and as a young person before you become adulthood. So as we've grown through that, you know, I talked about the things that I got into and all that, you know, selling weed in high school early and all the crazy shit. And I had some really wild times in high school. I remember in my senior year, I remember it was we were graduating, and because I had built such a network of people, you know what I mean? Whether it was because I partied with them, or I was friends with them, or I took up for them because I didn't like bullies, or I sold them weed. I don't know what it was. Long time ago, but I don't know what it was. But and my dad don't listen to this, so I ain't got to worry about getting in trouble at 44 years old. But my parents went out of town, and we ended up having like a half a day senior smoke session day at my house. And I kid you not, my little upstairs, you know, I don't know, 500 square foot bedroom was filled to the brim with every walks of life inside of my room. Not to mention I had a pet boa constrictor that was about 10 foot long, sitting in the middle watching TV with us. And I mean, we were all smoking bongs and blunts and all this other shit. And again, I'm not advocating all this. This was way back in high school, but hear me out. I've always been like somebody who could keep people together and bring other people together, right? And all my parties I ever threw, or all my events I ever threw, it just was a lot of people from all walks of life, right? And why I'm telling you this is because that characteristic has stayed with me throughout life, right? Throughout business, throughout life, as my entrepreneurial journey, throughout the entire just run of my entire existence. I've just always been a connector, and I've always been a relationship builder, and I've always been a culture protector or a culture builder, right? And, you know, starting my own gym, SBY MMA Fitness, and working with Branden Brittingham and Rich Barr and their team at the Maryland and Delaware group of EXP, you know, this is a high performing real estate company. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking about Branden coaches the who's who across the country, speaks on stages. He's actually got the #1 podcast. He's been on the show. And my role there is the director of Age of Success. So not only do I foster and create a incredible, impactful, life-changing community and culture here at SBY MMA Fitness, a combat sports gym, but I'm also able to create and contain and emphasize and enforce the culture over at this high-performing real estate team without a real estate license, mind you. Okay, I'm just a guy who gets punched in the face. Who Branden decided that he wanted me to work for him, and it's been 5 years later. It's been a life-changing experience. And what I want you guys to get from this podcast today is I want you guys to understand like how important and how effective it is to have a good culture behind you, mostly in business, right? Because I think that we want to go to a place of business that we feel like we're a part of something bigger, that we feel like we're making a contribution, that we're adding, you know, and receiving something from this organization that we're a part of. And, you know, I think that a lot of people miss how important culture is, especially on their quest to greatness and on their quest to entrepreneurship and on their journey of business ownership and all of that, man. And it's a big deal. You know, I've seen it on the sports side where, you know, you have culture killers, man. You have people that, you know, they end up getting involved in MMA. They end up competing. You know, and not everybody in a combat sports gym is competing. There's a lot of majority of your people in a combat sports, on most combat sports gyms, what they are is they are there just to learn and be a part of the, you know, brotherhood and get into shape and all the other things. They're not there to fight in a cage or compete at your tournaments. And we've had instances where, you know, we've had people that have come in and they started really good. They were brand new. They get a couple wins under the belts, win a title, and all of a sudden, you know, it's all about them. You know, it's their show now. They forget about the culture that they're a part of, and they start walking around as if they have some entitlement issues. They have to, as if the rules don't apply to them because for whatever reason they decided to be at the gym longer than most people, and they decided that they wanted to compete, and they just they decided that they were going to go down the route of making an MMA journey or a combat sports journey a career. And I would see it. I would see some students where they would be all in when they needed the gym and they needed the culture, and they weren't training for a fight, and then that would quickly change when they were in their camps, which is acceptable. Excuse me, sorry guys, I'm still 2 weeks without coffee, so I'm going to fumble my words a little bit. I'm on a caffeine detox, so bear with me. You didn't even know last week, but I was struggling. But that's something that when you have that kind of mentality, it's understandable when you're in camp because you have to be very selfish in camp. But then what happens is after their fight, especially if they won, it was all about them. And, you wouldn't see their buy-in as much. You would see, them missing sessions or missing classes that they were supposed to teach. And you would see a decline in the culture of the other students. Because even though they're not fighters, or members, I should say, even though they're not fighters, they are still looking at the guy or the gal who is in the middle of the room. They're looking at the people that are doing their thing, learning and growing and trying to be like them, right? And those are the example setters, right? So, it's one thing that I've seen people kill the culture. I've also seen leaders and business owners, and I've made these mistakes myself, where they get too wrapped up on the business side, right? They get too caught up in trying to be, go make $1 billion and try to make all these things happen and make all these moves and bring all these clients, and they get caught up in the numbers and then the stresses of running a business and the stresses of managing people and all these things. They forget, like, hey, I need to really establish and reinforce the culture at my organization, especially my gym or my real estate office or whatever business that you're in. And, then you have other people that are just poor culture examples. People that, their values and authenticity isn't set in alignment, so that bleeds into the people that they're leading. You know what I mean? And I've seen this in combat sports gyms a lot, where you have and I don't think these are bad people, so to speak, right? I think they have a good intentions. I think that all gym owners are trying to really help people and teach people and open the door of combat sports to their members, and open the door of what combat sports did for them, so that they could have their moments and aha moments too, right? But the problem is if you're a dirtbag in real life, you're probably a fucking dirtbag in your gym. And even though you might want to, bring in and introduce all these great things, you might be fun to hang out with, you might have their back if they're in your gym, doesn't mean that you're setting the best example. And what happens is I've seen this before, where gym owners, they talk tough online, and, they talk tough in front of their gyms, and they're tough in front of all their students who they can beat because the students are coming to them to learn how to fight. But then in real life, they're not as tough as they pretend to be, and they don't follow through with some of the things that they say they're going to do. And then what happens is that gym owner, our leader, they don't realize, bitch assness doesn't realize bitch assness, right? So they don't realize that, they're all of their bitch asses shit that they do. They have a justification. See, bad people have a justification in their minds on why they're bad people, right? Or why they are, people that, narcissists, or people that, I hate that buzzword because everybody uses it so much, but it is a real thing. People that lead with ill intentions or selfish intentions, only about themselves. They don't see the wrongs in their doings. They're completely blinded to it, right? They think that what they're doing is the way you're supposed to handle life and how you're supposed to be. But to the common people like you and I, we're like, what the fuck is wrong with this person, right? So what happens is when they set that example, that trickles down. And I've seen gym owners where they've led by that example, and then a couple of their little white belts that turn purple belts, or their little, guys that had a couple sparring sessions in kickboxing or Muay Thai, all of a sudden their balls drop and they want to talk tough too online, not knowing that there's consequences for your actions, not knowing that, you will come up across somebody who's not going to deal with that type of shit, or you will set a poor example in front of other businesses or other people that potentially were going to do business with you, and ultimately you destroyed your reputation. And again, they may not care about that, but that is a thing, and that will affect your business. That will affect all the other, entities and things that you're trying to accomplish as a person, you know, and people see it, you know. And I've seen also where like it's a us versus them kind of culture where people, you know, they want to really have this mindset that like, hey, we're a community, we're open to everybody, but yeah, you're over there, we don't like them, they're not this. And there's always some sort of there's always some sort of asterisk where somebody has to add something to the conversation about another member or another club or another gym owner or another realtor or whatever. And I'm going to talk real estate and gym because those are the things that I'm most experienced with. But at the end of the day, you know, you're still looking at people that just don't lead by a good example, you know? And here's the problem with all of these traits, right? If you let it continue, then it's going to reflect on the growth of your business. So if you don't foster the culture, if you don't continuously sell the vision, if you don't take the time with your people to be able to engage with them, communicate with them, follow up with them, make sure they're okay, follow up your employees, all the above, lead by example, then that negative example that you set will ultimately affect your money. It'll affect your happiness. It'll affect your psyche. You know, you'll be thinking about shit that you don't need to think about. And you'll be thinking about things that don't make you no money. You know what I mean? If it doesn't fuck me, feed me, or, you know, or fall in love with me, then I don't care about it. I forgot the last stuff, so I winged that last one. But you know what I'm trying to say, right? So at the end of the day, you know, it's really important that you establish authenticity and core values, right? I think that is huge. We have our core values listed right in the gym. Every one of my coaches can recite it right off the top of their heads. Most of our clients can recite them. You know, our first one is FYE. Fuck your excuses. I didn't come up with that. I stole that. I was given that actually. But that's it resonated with me the first day I heard it. When I heard that, I was like, holy shit, that's exactly what I need to hear. Fuck your excuses. We have that here at the at the SBY, and we also have that at the Maryland and Delaware group. And I got to credit Ryan Stewman at Apex because that's where I heard it first. And you know, I went ahead and took it. He said I could, so I took it, right? But yes, fuck your excuses is first. And we all make excuses, right? I make excuses. We all have. We're wired that way. So I have to actually tattoo it on my shoulder to remind me to not do it. And a lot of other people in that Apex community do the same thing because I'll make excuses really quickly. But that's first, you know. The second one is lead by serving. So, you know, even Jesus has washed the feet of the disciples. I always bring up that example because it's very important that you understand that leadership comes by doing and not just saying, okay? When you do things and you are in the trenches and you are making sure that you're serving your members, you're serving your community, you're serving your higher power, you're serving your family, then you're a true leader, okay? And that makes a big difference. Do the work's our third core value, right? Do the work. Just shut the fuck up and do the work. That's self-explanatory. I don't want to hear it. Do the work and do the work above and beyond. Go up, do it to the farthest capacity that you could possibly do it so that you know you took pride in your work. The next one is team before me. And that's a huge one for the culture, right? It's got to be that you got to pay the house first. You know what I mean? In the old mafia days, you had to pay the house first. You have to pay the government first. You have to pay the house first. You have to pay your gym a membership. You have to pay your dues. You have to pay, you know, you have to pay your gym the respect and your place the dues of showing up. And it's always team before me. Put your team first. Put the house first. Always represent that. And the last one, the most important one for me is earn the right to win for your family. And that's a personal one for me where it's like, you know, hey, I'm the one that's going to change the dynamic of my family for generations to come. I believe that. I've been gifted that. I know that's in me. I think that's in a lot of you that are listening to this. I think it's in actually most people. You are the one. And if you don't think you're the one, then that means you are the one. And you have the potential to change the dynamic of whatever your generational or family curse looks like, right? Whatever the curse that you have over your head or you think that woe is me, we all have the ability to change that forever, for generations to come. But it takes so much more than just believing and thinking that you're the one. You actually have to go above and beyond. So those are our core values, right? Those are the values that sit on display right in front of the gym. They're in our office at the war room. Those are just front and center of what we do as a group. And that's how we police our culture, right? That's how we're able to foster our culture. We're able to make sure that, you know, hey, look, you know, you're making excuses right now, FYE, motherfucker. Did you do the work? Are you leading by serving? Are you putting the team first? The team could be your family. The team could be your colleagues, anybody. And are you really doing everything needed to earn the right to win for your family? Because you don't just get to win, you got to earn to win, right? And that just goes, that is such a great thing because one, it helps me be able to police our coaches, right? Or like our staff. If we've got a staff member that's not honoring our core values, they got to go. You know what I mean? Like, well, we'll have a conversation with them at first. You know what I mean? Hey, do you think you're honoring the core values? Most of the time, they'll be like, you know what? I don't think I was. And they'll tell you the truth, and then we can course correct, right? And that gives an open form of a discussion through correction, right? Or if they just don't get it or they keep violating it, then they have to go. And I don't do too many violations. You got like 2 times with me and you're out, right? So, and then that also trickles down from the leadership. Because if I'm not honoring them core values, if I'm not walking the walk, and as I talk the talk, then my coaches aren't going to follow suit. And if my coaches don't follow suit, then the members aren't going to follow suit. The members don't follow suit, the parents won't follow suit. It just creates a bad culture. This is why we have 300 plus members that are thriving, changing their lives, that are improving their lives, that are talking about us, doing so many great things. Because again, we just stand by these core values, right? And we recite them all the time. They're posted in front of everybody. It is number one when you walk in the door of SBY MMA Fitness or the Maryland and Delaware group. And I think being really authentic and being real with people and just meeting people where they're at. The biggest thing that I think that is missing in a lot of businesses and a lot of organizations and even at home is, we forget to like check in with people. We forget the community connection, right? Like, I can tell you a story about almost every one of our members, right? And that's just not the current ones, the ones that have been here. I can tell you something about them. I can tell you where they're at. I can talk. I know the names of their children. I know the names. I know things about my members, right? And really, the human mind is only designed to only manage about 50 people tops, right? That's why, like back in the day, your tribes were like really limited to 50 people. Like they kept the tribes smaller and they broke them up because the human psychology can only handle but about 50 names and 50 people and 50 situations at a time, right? The smaller the tribe, the more manageable the tribe. That's why usually you see like in most organizations, you really do departments no bigger than 3 or 4, that are having direct team leadership because it's too hard to manage that many people and keep that culture and keep that everything, still as a rising value. So, and productive as well. So like, that's huge, man. And you'd be surprised how easy it is. You simply just be a fucking person and don't talk about yourself. You know what I mean? Like nobody asked you. You went up to that person and said, hey brother, how's your day today? And that person literally said, well, it's okay. Or that person went into details. Either way, they're waiting for you to ask a follow-up question to get to what they want to talk about. Because all of us humans want to talk about ourselves. That's number one rule in sale. The one who talks the least holds the most leverage. So in the ability to communicate with another human being, the less that you're speaking, the more that you're intentionally listening, the more leverage and understanding you'll be able to have to be able to help and to be able to, listen, not to respond, but listen to offer value in the conversation and add, whatever needed at a time. And you'd be surprised how many people are just not conscious of walking up to someone and asking how your day is and then immediately talking about themselves. You guys have experienced that so much. I know I have. We'll sit here and, I'll ask someone about their day, or excuse me, somebody asks me about their day, and I actually decide to open up for once, and I'll tell somebody, well, man, I'm really struggling with this caffeine thing, man. I'm about 12 days out, dude. It's bothering me, and my head's hurting, my legs are shaky. I'm not even feeling like I'm brain foggy, this, that, and the third. And before somebody can even say that sucks, they'll be talking about themselves. Well, back in the day, I was talking about myself, and this is what I did. Motherfucker, I didn't ask you. I didn't even want to tell you about my life. But yet, that's how humans are wired. And that's how quick people will go to, completely jumping over you when they ask you how you're doing, to start talking about them and start making it about them. And then they don't know what's going on. And then in that process, they've completely checked out of the conversation and forgot any details or any important factors that they asked the person how they were doing. And I think that's important, especially as a leader, man. Unfortunately, you're not always going to be friends with your employees, right? It just is what it is. It's not personal, right? It's nothing that is, it's nothing wrong with that. You know, in a perfect world, it would be great to be friends with your employees and friends with everybody that you work with or work for. But it's just not, it's not reality, right? Because so many people confuse family and friends with business, and it people, you know, people's feelings start getting involved. And once you start crossing that threshold of friends and business and things like that, it's hard to really come back from that if you haven't established clear-cut boundaries. I think that, and I heard this weekend, I think that if you want to do business with your friends or your family, then, and this is a golden rule of no too, but they should be your business partner, and clear-cut boundaries should be established. But it's very hard to be in business or have your friends or family work for you, right? So at the end of the day, you know, there are boundaries between the owner or the, you know, the upper man, the CEO, and the employees. However, it goes so much far. It goes so far when an owner or a CEO or a president comes up and speaks to their employees and gets on ground zero with the guys and gals that are helping lead the ship, helping build this creation that you guys are trying to create. You know, and a lot of upper management lose sight of that, right? A lot of gym owners lose sight of that. You know, I know a lot, there's a big discussion about the gyms right now where, you know, this one gym, they only want to have, you know, top players and top level teams and or members, and they don't want any white belts. And that's fine if that works for them. But now there seems like there's trouble in paradise, or at least it was pointed out by another gym that they left. So there's always these things that, you know, there's always these things that people want and envision. But as you start a gym or a business or a real estate team or a family or whatever, it always changes. It always changes, and you have to pivot. And I think in the quest of trying to grow something or build something or establish something, a lot of times the upper management, the leaders, the gym owners, the real estate team, they forget to you know, talk to the guys and gals that are on ground zero. And it doesn't mean that they have to shoot the shit for some wasted conversation. Just, hey man, I've seen you doing a really good job. You know what I mean? Keep it up. When I notice my members in here, when I notice that they have lost weight or they're tightening up and toning up, man, it doesn't matter if they see me every single day. When I out of the blue remind them and tell them how great they look and great job on the work, I see their facial expression change. I see their shoulders pull back. I see them completely transform in that moment when I tell them about themselves and how well they're doing and what they're doing and so forth. And, you know, most people don't know how to accept compliments. They kind of brush them off, but we really are in need of them. Especially person to person. You know, we really in need of. Think about this. Think about a post that you post or something that you put up. You know what I mean? Don't act like you don't pay attention to the likes and comments. We all do. We can all act like we don't, but we all do, right? We can all say we don't. We all do. We all get the notification. We all pay attention to it. I mean, you can get 100 likes telling you how great you did or how awesome you look or how wonderful you are. But that one motherfucking poor comment or bad comment that you get will be the one that you'll think about for days, right, or hours. And you'll just get worked up, ready to burn the ship down because of that one bad comment. Well, if that's online and in our computers in our pockets, imagine how important and impactful a positive compliment and a positive mention is with person to person. So it goes a long way. I see Brandon Brittingham and Rich Barr all the time. I see these guys walking around the office, stepping in the office. Well, not so much Rich. Rich literally fucking tells us he's going to kill us half the time. But I see Brandon constantly walking there and tell his guys and gals how good they're doing and what they're doing and how important it is. And then he's also hard on everybody. Like you get a blend of, you know what I mean, the good and the tough, you know what I mean? But it goes so far because most people don't feel seen as it is. So for you as the business owner or the gym owner or the captain or the coach or the whoever you are, the real estate mogul or whatever, wherever you're at, man, even your fucking kids, dude. Sometimes we compliment our kids so that when we do compliment them, it's kind of like a watered down compliment because, you know, it just doesn't stick. My mother is guilty of this more than anybody. And it's not because she watered down the compliments. My mother literally is a person who words of affirmation is her love language. And she loves so hard. She loves so hard from her fullest of heart. She's a beautiful woman. And she'll tell you every minute of your life how amazing you are and how great you are and how awesome you are. And she'll make excuses for you too, even when you fuck up, because she just sees the good in her kids. And sometimes, you know, if you're the same way that you receive love, that kind of sounds drowned out sometimes. I know for me, I have to check myself a bunch of times. Like, my mom's telling me a compliment. Brandon, be in the moment for a second. pull your fucking talons out, put your talons away, excuse me, and just accept the compliment your mother's trying to give you. You know, so what? You're 44 years old. So what? That's your mama. You only got one, and you better appreciate her while she's here, because when she's gone, you're gonna wish you had heard those compliments more and more. And I'm telling you, saying it, I'm getting a little lump in my throat. I'm getting a little choked up because I'm the reality's hitting me. So we're gonna segue into our sponsor. So we want to thank and appreciate this. This episode has been brought to you by the Maryland and Delaware group of eXp Realty. How fitting. Check us out, Maryland and Delaware, Eastern Shore, for all your real estate needs. Branden Birmingham's got a bunch of shit going on over there. We've got a wholesale department. We've got a real estate fund, an investment fund, obviously rental properties. We've got, new construction, everything. All right. This is the one-stop shop. We got a construction company over there called Shorehawk Construction. You name it, we've got it. So, if you need something, or if you want to become a realtor, even more, if you want to get into real estate, you know what I mean? And we're at EXP. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Maryland or Delaware, but if you want to get into real estate, message me, let me know, shoot me a DM, and I can work that out too. So there's our sponsor mention. But we talked about transformations, and we talked about, how important it is to tell somebody about that. I was talking to a kid today. I was training a kid today. This kid's lost 100 pounds, right? Actually, 2 kids that I have back to back have lost 100 pounds just by doing combat sports. And, these guys, they're the most gentlest giants. They're God-fearing young men. Well, one of them is an adult now. I had him since he was 15. The other one is 16. He'll be 17 next month. And, I mean, these guys are big men, big boys, right? But they're God-fearing men. They're beautiful people. They're great. And they came in here, and they adapted the culture, man. They adapted the culture, and the culture they adapted to gave them the confidence to keep showing up and to not only work out and get into shape, but hey, let me start eating right. You know what I mean? Let me start putting the right things in my mind, the right things in my body. I see Coach P over here, man. He's got, he looks great, man. He's a bigger guy. I connect with that, but he still looks like he works out every day and he looks really in shape. Let me work with him. Let me do what he's doing. Let me follow his lead, right? I see this all the time. We have changes like this, man. I've seen in the real estate team, right? We've got, young guys, young kids. I'm talking about 25 years old, 24, 23, 21 when we first got them, that in their second year of real estate are making well over 6 figures. They have their own investment properties, their own house. One of them's about to get married. You know what I mean? The other one's, he's just crushing the game. He's he's a guy that, everybody goes to for leadership. They've spoken on stages across this country. They've been on, featured on news reports, what the hell are they called? Reports, excuse me, where the news, hosts highlighted them about things that are going on in the area and real estate and stuff like that. And they've also led other people, man. I've seen people come in. We got a guy, he's pushing 40. He's one of my fighters, my champion. I had him, Louis Amabelli. He's now completely changed his life from working inside of a tire or of a mechanic shop, where he was, the service writer, to now he's in real estate, where it's like he's not making any money right away. He's learning the ins and outs of this new industry and absolutely loves it. I mean, he's in a completely different space right now, completely different mind space, and he's crushing it, man. We got a young lady in the wholesale department. She's 21, 22 years old, making 6 figures in wholesaling real estate, and literally has changed her life. Completely changed her life. And this is not about just making money. It's about what they're getting from showing up 60 hours a week at somebody else's business. 60 hours a week, you're busting your ass, you're working at somebody else's business. And it might be even more in hours than that. It's not about just putting numbers on the board and selling homes. There are the people that are impacting and influential to other people's first home that they're buying, or the home that they're starting a family, or saving their family because they just had another addition or 2 additions and they need more room. You know what I mean? It's an incredible transformation of what I get to see on a daily basis. At the Maryland Delaware group for 4 years now, I've been awarded Protector of the Culture, right? We do the awards every year, and not everybody gets an award, you know what I mean? And I've been blessed with being recognized as the protector of the culture. And I got my plaque sitting up here in my office. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of them because, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of intention and a lot of paying attention to not just foster and honor your own culture, but being able to take those qualities that you have and bring them into someone else's culture and make it adaptable and make it mesh and make it work well. And, you know, I got respect from realtors, and I don't even sell real estate. You know what I mean? It's not because I'm a tough guy. It's because I see my realtors. I see these guys and gals, and I see their pain points. You know, Branden doesn't always see that. Branden Brittingham, he's more black and white, where, you know, he's like, hey, do the work or not, motherfucker. You know, he's dealing with high performers on a daily basis. So he gets it, but he doesn't always see it in the moment because, you know, he was from a different era. I'm from a different era. We had to just shut up and throw numbers up, right? But I can see different things in people that I'm like, oh, okay, you're struggling right now in your business because you got some things going on at home that you haven't settled and you're wrestling with. Or you're making some decisions that you're not necessarily proud of on your extracurricular time. And this is leading into why your production or why your energy is off inside the gym or inside the office, excuse me. You know, I can see those things because I can see people, because I take the time to go out here and connect with people and ask people questions, ask and listen with intention, try to help people through what's going on so that they can get to the next level. I'm just a fucking lover of humanity. I'm a lover of humans, right? Sometimes I forget that there's evil in this world because I get so caught up in the personal development and the transformation in life. And I see so many people in the gym and in life working on themselves where I forget about the evil in life and that there's evil people out here and there's bad people out here, right? And which is ironic because I spent such a lifetime in that world where, you know, I was surrounded by thugs, drug dealers, and killers. You know what I mean? So I forget about the evilness that this world has because I see so much good and so much potential in so many people. And I'm a coach. I'm supposed to, right? I'm supposed to bring out the best of you. It's not my job to be your fucking friend. It's my job to bring out the best in you. It's my job to put you at performing at the highest level, no matter where that's at, whether it's in the field, whether it's in the cage, whether it's on the mats, it doesn't matter. It's my job to do that, right? So it's hard sometimes for me to sit here and see the bad in you because I was bad myself. I was like that myself. But, you know, you do have to remember that there is evil in this world and you can't save everybody. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Being able to see the people that value transformations, like the two guys I got that lost 100 pounds, and like the realtors that I have that, you know, are changing that dynamic for their families, or starting families, or doing all these great things. You know, it's so rewarding, and it just means so much to me. So we're running out of time. I'm going to give you some actionable items and some tips that work for me, right? That you could take and you can hopefully start implementing them right away so that you could start leaving such a better impact or creating a better culture and community in your businesses or in your families. The biggest thing that I want to say first off is it starts with you, okay? As the leader, or even if you're not a leader, even if you're being led, it still starts with the example that you set, okay? If I didn't set the example every single day, if I only decided to set the example on 5 days a week, those 2 days every week are going to compound, and they're going to turn into what? 2 times 52? That's 104 days a week. Is that right? Yep. So now I've got 104 days a year, excuse me, not a week, 104 days a year that I'm not living as an example, right? Compound that over 10 years. You know, that's 10,000, I think, if my math's off, or I don't know. It's a bunch. I don't have my calculator because I'm off the coffee. Bear with me. But you get it. That's 10,000 days where I'm not being the best example, right? Well, yeah, we can have our off days, but if I've got 10,000 days where I'm not being an example in my life, those 10,000 days probably are riddled with the worst example that I'm being. So it starts with you. You have to be the example every single day. Doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. Doesn't mean that you're not going to fall short. Doesn't mean that you're not going to learn. But being the example and being vulnerable and being willing to accept the fact that you made a mistake and own your mistake is going to be crucial for the way that people see you lead. See, my folks know I'm not perfect. My folks know that I fumbled the bag many times in my life and still do. But when I own that shit and say, hey, man, I fucked up. I'm taking ownership of what I fucked up, and I'm going to correct this. I'm not going to let it happen. That's where they respect me. That's where they follow me. That's where they care for me. That's where they love me, because I took ownership of my faults. I didn't hide behind the shadows. I didn't try to sneak around and act like I didn't. Look, I fucked up. I'll tell you right now, I fucked up in many, many different ways in this gym business. I fucked up with some of the members before. I fucked up with the way I responded to other gyms or other gym owners, excuse me, than in times of beef. I fucked up in some of the things I've taught in class. I'm human. I'm going to mess up. I've said the wrong thing before. Jesus, Lord, I've said some bad things before that I was like, fuck, why did I say that? It came out wrong. But at the end of the day, I was willing to own my mistakes, and I was willing to own the things that I did wrong, right? Course correct and move forward. And I was willing to be honest with that. And that's what people really respect. So it starts with you. It starts with you being the example everywhere you go, everywhere you act, everywhere you go. You have to be the example. You have to live by the words that you speak. Do not be condemned by your own tongue. The second thing is you have to spend time with the closest ones in relevance with you. In other words, my coaches. I spend time with my coaches. I spend time with my staff. I spend time with my realtors. I'm constantly checking in with them. I'm constantly making sure that they're on the same page. If we're not honoring the core values, then we're not going to be able to move forward, right? You're not going to be a good fit here at SBY or MDG or wherever else we're at, right? So having those core values established, that's the next tip. You need to write down write down your business core values. I don't like to do a bunch of personal and business and all that shit. Look, my core value, who I am at home is who I am here. I'm going to be the same guy wherever I'm at. So establishing your core values, first of all, your personal core values, right? If you don't know what core values are, whoever you look up to in life, right? Whoever it is that you admire in life, whether it be a family member, a member of the community, a leader, a celebrity, whatever. What do you like about them people? What is it that you look up to them about? That's your core values. Start there, right? But have your core values established, okay? And then you have to make sure that your people are bought into those core values, okay? You have to make sure your people recite those core values at every meeting. You have to make sure that they're constantly living by them. And if they're not, you need to have the tough conversation, and then you need to hire slow, fire quick. Simple as that. It's not worth having someone stay on your organization or on your payroll who's not honoring the core values, who's not living by the same example that you're setting, because that will sabotage your entire culture. That will sabotage everything you've built, and it takes way too long to have to rebuild a good culture, okay? So I've had to do it a couple of times where we've had to, we've had to get rid of people, or they've gotten rid of themselves or whatever in the gym. And now we're right on that cusp where SBY is like crushing it right now with synergy and culture right now. We have a very good group of people. We have an awesome fucking coaching staff, awesome good group of members, awesome staff that's here helping, and it's really working. We're firing off on all cylinders, and we got a lot of big things coming. That's because sometimes you have to weed out, or God removes those people from your life to add better and more impactful people that are going to help your culture and grow your culture the way that you established and how you led, okay? The other thing is challenge people, okay? Challenge people in a way to get them thinking, not to get them in a way that they are feeling defensive, okay? So in other words, if you're going to challenge people, you need to challenge them in a way that, hey, what got in the way of whatever you said you were going to do? Not why, right? Not you didn't do this. Don't put them on the defense. Hey, what got in the way? You told me you were going to lose 20 pounds this summer, and you're eating fucking Krispy Kremes and going in on tan color coffees. What's going on? Well, a lot of times when you say what got in the way, they're going to be very honest with you, and they're not going to feel defensive. They're going to identify the problem and go right to it, and then they're going to start working on trying to course correct. And that little mention alone might be something big and impactful for them to make that change and remind them, oh shit, I did say what I said, and I'm a person of my integrity, and I'm a person who says what they say, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and make this happen. And also check in with people. Say, hey, look, what's going on, man? You doing good? I heard about this. We had a members that they unfortunately he lost his wife, and his kid lost his mother not too long ago, man. And I mean, dude, that's I can't imagine. I called him as soon as I got back in town. It wasn't I just want to see how he's doing. I was really curious, and I want to make sure he knew that he was supported, right? And I had nothing to say for him. I had nothing to say anything other than just, I'm here for you, buddy. If there's anything I can do, I'm here. Just please know that I love you and I'm here. So it's important that you check in with your members and you treat your people like humans. Don't treat them like numbers. There's a time for business, but there's also time for personal. I don't understand, don't mix business and personal. Man, even in the game when I was on the streets, I couldn't help it, dude. Like, these are people. How do you not mix business and people when everything is personal, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I know it's probably the wrong thing to say, But I see people as humans, and I see people as, I'm just a lover of humans, man. That's the way I am. And however, I've been burned a lot, so I've had to work on creating boundaries and establishing how close I let people get. But I still, that's who I am, and I'm happy to say that. I'm okay to say that. I'm not going to change that. I just make sure I create and establish boundaries. And I think that's the last tip I'll use with you is establishing clear-cut boundaries, establishing clear-cut do's and don'ts, yes and no's that we can and cannot do. I think when the goalpost change and the goal line changes, I think that's when people get stuff kind of blurry and they lose context and understanding of what's really important. So you have to stay consistent with your messaging. You have to stay consistent with what are the boundaries, what are the do's and don'ts, where do I fit in, how do I go and continue to move towards what this organization or this family, whatever it is that you're trying to make happen, move towards goals and their outcomes. And I think that's a good start, man. There's so much more I could cover, man. I try to get as much in 45 minutes, but this was a real easy topic for me, man. I love culture. I love people. I love humans. I love building a culture. I love the underdog. I just love people. That's what I'm all about. And I'm not going to apologize and be unapologetic for, getting burned or, having to remove people from my life or whatever it is, because I know that in my heart, I'm always doing as much as I can for people, with mistakes or without them. But I know that I'm always doing as much as I can. And, if they don't want to be a part of my culture, that's okay too. That's fine. There's plenty of other places to go. But if you are a part of my culture, if you are a part of my network or my community, I love you to no ends, and I'm going to go to war for you, and I'm going to go to bat for you as far as I can, because it's just the kind of person I am. And that's served me very, very, very well in life. So, guys, if you got something from this episode, please share it. I appreciate you guys hanging out until the end and listening. Give me a review. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I know a lot of you this hit home. I read all the comments. I read all the reviews. I'm very involved with my social media with all. I want to get better. And you, the audience, the followers, the community of SBY Champ Talk, you guys will help me do that. So, guys, I'll see you next week. What are you doing today to become a champion?